We're live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unleashed with me, Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. We kind of just skipped the intro, went straight here. We're doing this a little unusual. We were planned for tonight, but there's going to be a presidential address to the nation at the same time that I normally do the Thursday live stream of Unleashed. So we're going to air this one early. And so we're going to be talking with Dr. James Lindsay. This is an interview that I did in May at the actually, oh no, it was in June. In May, we were in New York City. So in June, when we were in San Diego for the Moms for Liberty 250 celebration, one of them, it was fantastic. We were aboard the USS Midway on D-Day, and it was just a fabulous event. And when I was there for several days, we also had a parental rights boot camp, and that was amazing. And then that was for Moms for Liberty members. And at night, we had a town hall event. And James spoke at that event. And he also was talking with parents that we were in San Diego, parents that had come out from California, from across the West Coast. And we don't usually get a chance to get out to California. So it was a really great time talking with absolute warriors. You know, you think about Gavin Newsom and all the craziness and the woke insanity of California, but very large population and a huge number of absolute heroes and warriors fighting the good fight. And this was fresh off the win of Sonia Shaw, who had the most votes and is now proceeding on to it was a primary. So now she's running for the California State head of superintendent of education. And she's fabulous. I mean, talk about David versus Goliath. Sonia just poured her heart and soul into this campaign, and she continues to do so. And so kind of just fresh off of all of that, we were in San Diego. So buoyed by some wins, but then also saw what happened with Spencer Pratt. And as usual, so many different Title IX investigations launched into school districts that just refuse to quit woke. And we were right in the middle of A.B. Hernandez and the boy in California that winning all these medals in track and field, defeating girls, biological girls in all female categories on track and field and the long jump. And so we were in the middle of all of that when James and I recorded this interview. It's a really good one, and it's really relevant right now as we're dealing with Democratic Socialists. A bunch of primary wins, and they are on the road to the revolution, and that is the title of webinars that they do, and several that I have attended. I've even live streamed them to our social media, and been shock and awe about how just the sheer insanity, and that people are finally waking up to the fact that Democratic Socialists are actually communists. And that's not a surprise to me, may not be a surprise to those who follow and listen to this show and Moms for Liberty. And if you're a fan of James Lindsay, it's certainly not a surprise to you. But I think some people are actually surprised to discover that Democratic Socialists are Marxists and they're communists, and they want to have a revolution. And that's why they have seminars like Roadmap to the Revolution, where they envision dismantling and disrupting all of Western civilization, but in particular, America, and remolding it into this Marxist vision that they have for America. One way that this is accomplished, and we've been discussing this all week, talking with Ryan Walters and Corey DeAngelis about what's happening with teachers unions, is they have a cheat code. They've kind of found a little wrinkle in the matrix, and they've realized that they don't have to have their own kids. They just have to go after hours. They just have to indoctrinate ours. And what better way to do it than when they're sitting in a classroom for 8 hours a day? So they have marched right through the institutions of education. This used to be something that we only worried about when we sent our kids to college. We thought, oh, colleges, they could turn your kids like a little more progressive, Marxist liberal. But now that indoctrination is starting much, much younger, and gender ideology is the Trojan horse to get to very young kids. As we've talked about and reported this week, my gender dolls, subsidized by federal funds by an award grant given during the Biden administration. The University of Minnesota has created my gender dolls, and they're hideous looking dolls. They are just ugly as sin. They're ugly dolls who have swappable genitalia, and they're created, and this is their website, this is their words, for children ages 4 to 10, so they can explore their gender identity. So these are dolls that are made for children in a clinical setting and educational setting. So I can promise you that kind of garbage like this will find its way into classrooms if it's not already on its way right now. So just breaking that story of my gender dolls, our director of development, Rosalind Hansen, was on Newsmax with Greg Kelly just last week, Friday, talking about this, and we've been talking about it on our social media. And really, it's just it's the canary in the coal mine for what's to come this school year. So if you think James and I talk, woke is unpopular with us. Woke is unpopular with the mainstream, but it's still the religion of the left. It's not unpopular for them, and it's not unpopular come on, the Odyssey, the premieres today, Odyssey, which has a 5 foot tall, 100-pound girl playing, a Greek god fighting. What's her name? She was in Juno. She was really good in Juno too. That was but now is really miserably failing at pretending to be a boy. And Philip, heart goes out to her. I already forgotten her name, but heart goes out to her that she feels this way. But yeah, look at the Odyssey, and has its little kind of woke tributes, hoping that it's still a good movie. We love going to the movies. We love that shared collective experience, and we were willing to tolerate. We have been tolerating so much for so many years. I know, rolling my eyes at the always far left women. The women are always super far left, and the rolling eyes at the little bit of the girl boss stuff, but you could overlook it, or a lot of the environmental stuff. You could overlook it. You just roll your eyes oh yeah, they always have to do that. They always have to make the Republicans look bad and Democrats look wise. And whenever there is a character, whether on TV or in a movie, that is a conservative, if they're likable, it's sort of by accident, like Alex P. Keaton, or the libertarian in the TV show that I like so much. But there'll be a character that you really like. I know that in 30 Rock, even though, Alec Baldwin, but his character in 30 Rock was conservative, and it was mocking Republicans, but it was funny. And I remember liking that show. But now you're just a straight up villain if you're conservative. There's no room at all. They're just done. They're done. They've taken off the mask. And so, there's Angel Studios. Thank goodness. I just watched a great show. I think it was Seeking Persephone. I just turned it on. I just started watching it. It's so good. Don't tell me how it ends. It's a series, but I love it. And so I've just bought the app for Angel Studios, and I'm looking for that content. I'm looking for something good to see. Like the young George Washington, something that's good and not cringe, not cheesy, not so obviously B C-list movie. actually good stuff, and it's happening. There are good movies being made that are entertaining, that are funny, that aren't like super religious. They're just kind of they can hit the mainstream and pop culture, and that's what we need to do. Jennifer Say says this all the time, that we cannot think that we're going to win this and just bypass popular culture. Like we've got to provide good, like XXXY brand. We've got to provide really good, high quality, cute stuff. We've got to create interesting and funny, romantic, exciting movies. We've got to create alternatives. We're starting to do that. It's not an easy thing to do, and the left. I mean, think about Hollywood. How long has? I mean, right from the beginning, Hollywood has been always more progressive. Um, More liberal, even like very far left, but it's just gone off the rails. They used to care about making money and at least like kind of hiding it a little bit. Now it's just boom in your face right out there. But I digress. Get out, tirade. But so we're talking with James. We're kind of talking about that. We're talking about the culture. We're talking about schools. We're talking about democratic socialism. We're talking about the fact that this is 2024. Great, big win. Woke lost. Sanity won. But the woke play for keeps. They're not. They're on the field. They're resetting. They have some new plays. They're using some old stuff. They've got a lot of institutional power. Their grip on teachers unions and the iron fist in which they control the levers of U.S. education from preschools to medical school. Hello, who is watching those hearings? I mean, medical Harvard doctors, they can't tell you what a woman is. They refuse to say that only women can get pregnant. Harvard doctors, Harvard professors. So you know what? I have a kid that's just graduating nursing school, and guess what? She's smarter than a Harvard physician, a Harvard professor, because she knows that only women can get pregnant, that men don't have periods, all those things, that men don't have a uterus. She knows that. So don't need a college degree to sometimes it's like their brains are so open, they're so open-minded that their brains are falling out. And but they don't really believe that, folks. Okay, take it from somebody who has family members, including my own children, that are in medicine, that my kid's dad is an orthopedic surgeon. They don't believe this stuff. They don't really believe it. I promise you this. You guys get this Harvard professor, like get him a drink and then really talk to him, and does not believe this. No, just he's saying it because if he doesn't, when he comes back, there's going to be some crazy cat ladies that are going to, they're going to go for his job, and he won't have one. So people don't actually believe what they're saying. They don't, because if they did, they would act like it. They know what they're saying is nonsense. And they know that the constituency that's eating it all up has a cluster B personality disorder. So like that, there's lots of different reasons. I'd love to have James back and say, let's explore. We could do it. And then of course we have a lot of other friends to bring on, and we could just really deep dive. This would be all day thing about what is it about critical theory? What is it about Marxism? Actually, James was at the Teacher Freedom Alliance Summit in Dallas. It just ended. And he was I think he was the first speaker. I already watched his lecture. It's only 20 minutes. I've watched it twice. So good. It's like getting in the Wayback Machine to 2021 when we were fighting critical race theory. It's like, oh yeah, it's rearing its ugly head again, isn't it? Yep, it is. They're back. Like, no, now they're like they were trying to deny it, cover it up. They're trying not to lose their federal funding, but they think that they're about to, after the Democratic Socialists have won all these primaries, they're getting a little emboldened, which can be good because I think it makes people aware before the midterm elections. Like Vice President JD Vance said right here in Milwaukee, this isn't um, this isn't left or right. This isn't red or blue. This is about who are you going to send to Congress? Are you going to send someone that is literally a crazy Marxist? Or are you going to send someone that maybe you don't like a few things about them, but they're normal? Like they actually know that men, they don't get pregnant. They don't want to abolish the police. They don't want to they don't want to indoctrinate your kids. They don't think that a great curriculum centers around abolishing ICE. They don't, because, that's fine. Because again, bad education for thee, but not for me. Their kids are in good private schools. They may be woke, but they're getting an education. Their kids aren't going to be discriminated against because they've got actual privilege. They've got the democratic socialist privilege. So if you're white and you run around saying that you're a Marxist, well, then somehow like that abolishes you. That's like sort of like when you could buy your way into heaven, give some tokens, all of that stuff before Martin Luther. They're sort of atoning for their sin of whiteness and oppression, and by saying all of the good Marxist things, and then they get to still they're virtue signaling, and then they get to hold on to their power. But the Frankenstein that they have built, you can't control that. And Democratic Socialists, well, they're unseating in these last primaries. They're unseating incumbent Democrats, and they're gunning like they don't. Hakeem Jeffries is too conservative for them, believe it or not. Yeah, like it's they think Nancy Pelosi is like a right winger. So that just goes to show you where they're at. And the Democratic Party just doesn't even know what to do with these people because logic doesn't work. And we'll talk about the streams. Logic doesn't work. This is an ideology that creates a resistance to logic and to sanity. And it's not just, you can't just say, oh, because they're ignorant. Some very well-educated people there at Harvard, it's that they have built up they have taught them how to think. And James admonishes us from saying something that I've said a lot. Hey, I want schools to teach kids how to think, not what to think. And James has said, nope, don't say that, because they're teaching kids how to think. They're teaching them how to think critically like a Marxist. And so we touch on this in this interview. If you would like to hear more about that, go to the Teacher Freedom Alliance YouTube page and watch his video. It's excellent. It's a really good one. One of my favorite. Good job, James. So, but another one of my favorites is this one. This really is one of my favorite interviews, and that's why I've been holding on to it. I've been holding on to it for over a month, waiting to put this out because we've been their Title IX, Center Stage, Supreme Court. We had our big 250 event, then a lot of 250 events taking place in DC, the big 4th of July celebrations, family time. So now I'm so glad to present this interview. It's really one of my favorites. And I've had many interviews with James, and very long ones. We've had many long conversations. This was just, we were really, because of the parental rights boot camp and the space we were in, all of the discussions we had, this is just 45 minutes, and it's really, really good. So please listen, please share. It's really a good interview and really lets you know where we are at in this fight and why we have to stay in the fight that's my theme, especially before the midterm elections. Stay in the fight and lead. Don't think, I know some are weary. You have to talk with friends, take a little break, but stay in the fight. We need you, and bring others in, because the woke are not taking a break. They're not missing a beat. And there are things happening. I'm hearing more and more of it's getting crazy at school board meetings again. They're really doubling down, really trying to recapture all that they lost since COVID and then some. They're riddled with Trump derangement syndrome. This is, again, a small group, but what they do, what I have watched what has been done to me in my school board races, in races that I have helped, happening right now to school boards in Wisconsin and across the country. This small radical group, their goal is to make your life miserable, to make the lives of anyone who speaks out, even kids, 16-year-old kids like Ella Fry, make their life miserable, make their parents' life miserable, to go after school board members, to make them want to resign. And it's getting off the charts. So it's small, but it's trying to nudge. It's trying to, they're good at just wearing you down until you're just like, oh, I'm done. I'm out of here. So you can't do that, because if you just stay in the fight, and you've got to want it more than they do. And when they see that you do, they're like, well, fine. They're going to move on to their next victim, their next target. But you just have to get through that hard time. And I know as I'm talking, there's people listening, and it's rough. There's school board members, and it's rough right now. There's activists, and it's rough. It's not an easy time, but there's so much good. We've got the Supreme Court decision. We have got Harmeet Dillon announcing just last week 100 new lawyers for the Office of Civil Rights have just been sworn in. That means more OCR investigations, and we are headed toward the enforcement phase. There's going to be districts losing funding. There's going to be some real things happening, and I'm here for it. I'm grabbing my popcorn. I'm ready to go. I know many of you are too. It's time for enforcement. It's time to call the bluff. It's time, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, but you got to know when to lay them down, and let's go. So that's what we're doing. So thank you for tuning in early. I'm going to share this again later on after the presidential address to the nation. But for now, let's listen to me and Dr. James Lindsay. This is one of my favorites. Again, please like, follow, subscribe, and share. Okay, we're in the frame. All right, you got your thing?
I got my thing.
All right, I'll pin mine too. Oh, and it has a cool little magnet.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that fun? Well, okay. So, hi everyone. I'm here with my friend and friend of Moms for Liberty, James Lindsay. We are in San Diego, California, and we're going to have a very big event tomorrow on the USS Midway. But the precursor to that, we are having a parental rights symposium. Right now, as I speak, there's a parental rights boot camp going on, and there's breakout sessions all over where parents are learning more about all sorts of very important, maybe for some would consider like the boring stuff, but it's actually like the crucial stuff that you need to be successful in a grassroots movement. I think that people can lose sight of, they think about, oh, I want to go viral on social media or something, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into everything that you see when there's success, like Sonia Shaw's recent success
right.
in California. So, and you know this because you have spoken at how many chapter events? You are always at the Moms for Liberty National Summit. So, what is your take on what it means to be successful in the grassroots space as far as parental rights, fighting for education, fighting against woke?
Well, I mean, what it means to be successful especially in the kind of education space, is getting in the game. Right now, we're still very early. A lot of people think we're going to like fix this in a year or 2 years, and this is a 20, 30-year fight. And we're at the stage where we're getting into the game. So all of this kind of nuts and bolts stuff about grassroots advocacy that's happening here at this, boot camp or whatever is going on right now is extremely important. Learning how to get your voice into the halls that matter, whether it's school boards, whether it's being on a school board, whether it's, city and county commissions, whether it's meeting with your state representatives, learning to get your voice and your advocacy and your clear understanding of the issues into the game is the most important part right now.
So I think what you said is right. Very, very happy and pleased. I worked very hard to help get Trump elected in 2024. And I think a lot of people thought, oh, great, we've won, and woke is unpopular. It's very unpopular, even in the mainstream. People reject it, especially young people. They're rejecting it, and I think they very early, they were like, great, woke is dead. We won. Throw the football down. We can leave the field. That is not the case.
No. Getting Trump elected was getting a first down in the football game. It was not winning the football game.
Yes.
It's a much longer game than this, but it's a big and important win, and of course we should celebrate. But we also have to realize that this is a very long fight. They have institutionalized what they're doing at the very least over 30 years, you could argue 50 or even 100 years.
Yes.
And there are like layer upon layer upon layer upon layer of integration, whether it's, the teachers unions working
Yes.
with the politicians, working with the nonprofits, working with the schools themselves, the teacher training and superintendent training pipelines. This is deeply integrated. This is a very long fight, and we've had some very, big wins, but it's not time to step off the field. It's time to retool and take advantage of the fact that we have this position, at least for a few years, to be able to take advantage of.
In an article in the Daily Wire, our mutual friend Meg Brock just released a 3-part report about how gender identity was getting embedded into all federal institutions, to the extent that there was a 78-page document detailing how gender identity was going to be a part of the child welfare system, CPS, everything to do, and then their dreams were even further. At every level of the federal government, affirming gender identity and basically supporting the gender mutilation surgeries, all of that was going to be an important aspect to getting any kind of federal funding.
Right. Yeah, the left operates this way. They understand that their goal is to get in the door and then to put their claws in. And they do that by making these layers of, like I said, integrated policy to where everything that has anything to do with funding or the next opportunity or whatever depends on you affirming this. So they make it very hard to get these things back out, not just because it's a matter of, okay, we're going to change the policy or we're going to change a couple of people and we're going to get things different. It's because it becomes integrated throughout the entire system. The left thinks in terms of something, just to get a little technical for a minute, called vertical integration. Their idea is to vertically integrate every single policy that they have so that you can't get it back out without a long kind of transformation. They've done a transformational process. We have to do reverse transformational process. And because these systems are interdependent on one another, it's not just a matter of switching some people out or changing the policy or getting the verbiage different. You've got to go layer by layer by layer and see how all of these things work together in order to be able to push back on this. And this is the part of the fight that we're entering now. We've made beachheads. We've made real differences. You are right, and the people are right. Woke is not popular anymore. except with the people who it is popular
Yes.
with, and they are never going to give up. And most of them have embedded themselves into institutions now.
Yes, and they have a lot of institutional power. I like the reference you made because tomorrow is D-Day. Okay, and so storming the beaches of Normandy, you know that it's very personal for me. I have a family that has lifelong service in the military. But was the war over after the successful D-Day invasion? First of all, there were a lot of casualties. There was a high price paid just to establish that beachhead. A lot of lives were lost. A lot of these young men just ran into open fire. So a price had to be paid just for that win. But the war was far from over.
That's right. Yeah, no, we're nowhere near Berlin at that point.
Yeah.
You know, we had just barely made it onto the coast of France. And so this is the kind of what we're dealing with. We have, I think it is correct, a lot of the younger people are turning away from woke, or at least there's the variant that uses the left wing means. A lot of them are reacting back the other way,
Yes.
being weird. Like, they're not straightened out yet. They're not centered on American values yet. So there's a lot to be concerned about. There's a lot to be positive about. But we have a zombie ideology is what I was trying to get to, which is where people don't believe in it, but the institutions operate. It's like the zombie is a dead body that's still animated and attacking things and eating brains. That's the institutions. It doesn't matter that it's unpopular if the institutions are integrated in order to implement it. We still have to do the long, hard work of kind of unmarching them out of the institutions.
Yeah, and I think recently there has, in the headlines, SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center. At the 2023 Moms for Liberty National Summit, you were there in Philadelphia, where I witnessed firsthand the power of SPLC. I had already experienced it in my home state of Wisconsin, but I didn't fully understand it. When we were in Philadelphia, I've never seen that kind of weirdness, vitriol, absolute hatred. I mean, you could feel it in the energy was just, it gave me goosebumps to be around these people and how much they just reviled us. And they screamed out things like, "Oh, American girls, you look like Barbies." It's like, is that supposed to be an insult? But we were normal, and it's this rebellion against normal, against anything that's patriotic, anything that's good, true, beautiful. It's like just this absolute rebellion against nature, I think. And that's kind of what I always describe woke as. But that was, SPLC had just put us on the hate map, labeled us domestic terrorists, and that gave permission. It was like this dog whistle went out for all these groups to come and do their worst. Because all these men, supposedly these progressive men that are all for, they were the worst. They just said things I can't even repeat, horrible, horrible things. And it just, to me, was like, wait a second, I thought you guys were all about women, but apparently not if you're a conservative woman.
Right. Yeah. No. I was there. I saw that too. And you're right. Being put on the SPLC hate list was an enormous part of why that happened. I was named just before then, as a few months before, I think. I was at a hate profile for the SPLC made. And I don't know now, but until, a few months ago, if I went and searched my own name in Google, it would be one of the top 2 or 3 things is my SPLC hate profile. It was very hard to get around. I mean, my own materials would not outrank. Wikipedia would be at the top, and then it'd be like SPLC stuff. And as I've dealt with some consequences for this. At one point, I was invited to possibly give testimony for the Senate about the transgender issue. And part of the reason, it's not the whole reason, but part of the reason why ultimately I was asked, to sit that one out was because I had an SPLC hate profile, and the Democrats would focus on it, and it would distract from the whole hearing.
Yes, a distraction. You'll be a distraction.
And then I have traveled abroad. I've spoken in New Zealand. I spoke for the Deputy Prime Minister in New Zealand, and the Antifa New Zealand rallied against both me and the event and the Deputy Prime Minister. And to this day, he and his political party are being attacked that he invited an SPLC hate person to come speak. So Antifa New Zealand was out there protesting this political event, just a standard annual general meeting for a party, but it was the SPLC that made that relevant. In every other country that I've spoken in, the SPLC thing comes up because they're not aware that it's just this gross front organization, but now we see that in fact it's really bad. Like it's really bad what was going on with it. It was very fraudulent. But it matters.
Indicted by a grand jury on 11 counts of fraud right now. There's even been recent news that the case is only getting strengthened. There's more and more evidence coming out against SPLC, proving. I mean, I don't even know if you have to say alleged because there was a grand jury indictment of documentable fraud.
Right. So, I mean, speaks to that integration that I was talking about, though. So many things, are not just in the U.S., but around the world, depend on that SPLC claim, which we now see as remarkably fraudulent and corrupt. And that has implications when, foreign governments, American government, opportunities or whatever, somebody to testify before the Senate, for example, becomes a distraction because of this. You go to the search engines, that's Google, that's a company, somehow their optimization is so high that it's one of the top returns when you search somebody's name. It's of course on the Wikipedia. So the integration this takes a long time to fight. And so it ties back to the fight with parental rights because first of all, the parental rights fight is a forever fight. Like every single generation is going to have to do this because every single generation of bad people want to take it away. And so we all
They
have
want
to
to destroy the family.
They want to destroy the family. They want to control people. They want to control.
They want to control young kids.
Young kids in particular. And they want to control kids to believe things that will get them to turn on their parents so they don't adopt their parents' values so they can be given new values.
Yep. And so as far as the SPLC, Tina Descovich, the CEO and co-founder of Moms for Liberty, was there. She was at the hearing with several members of Moms for Liberty. And our good friend Tyler O'Neill was testifying. Recently did a podcast with him as well. He's great. He's literally written the book on SPLC. He literally has written the book on how nefarious that they are. And these indictments, you'd think, okay, they're going to be quiet. They're going to go. No, they're not going anywhere. They had one of the leaders there who had run for office. Brandon Gill interviews her, and brilliantly, I love this guy. He asks, "Is your position still that we should abolish the police?" And she won't say, no, I've changed my mind. They still believe that. She still believes that you should abolish the police. She will use they, them pronouns. She is all down for the gender ideology, the transgender agenda, all of that. Nothing has changed. They will try to sound a little bit more moderate, a little bit more toned down. But if you just ask the question, hey, can men get pregnant? Do men menstruate? Do you believe that we should abolish the police? They will, well, this has nothing to do with the issue.
I mean, they don't stop. I just read a headline yesterday, I guess it's going viral on social media, but it said that, I guess the world's first woman has died of testicular cancer, and, this is a tragedy. And, it's breaking, boundaries every day. The glass ceiling on testicular cancer has been broken, girls.
Oh my gosh.
So, but it's like, at some point, we all start to see that this is preposterous, but these institutional, deeply integrated systems are still playing by this rule. And this is why we have to be as tenacious as they are.
Yes.
They go out, I hesitate to call what they have as values, but they have their values, and they go out and they never stop advocating for them. They never stop fighting for them, even in the face of this huge indictment, this humiliation. They are out there just bold and brazen and doing everything they always did, just the same. And we've got to have that same level of tenacity, because what we're fighting for are real values, real children, the real future of our country. And it's not negotiable. Yeah,
I mean, two worldviews are in the boxing ring. Maybe one woke is on the ropes, but do you leave when they're on the ropes, or do you go for the knockout punch to win? You got to go for the knockout punch. One worldview is going to survive, and that's just it. They do not want to cohabitate with us.
Right.
They want us gone.
That's right.
We may want to say, oh yeah, we just want to live and let live. That was my attitude for a very long time, but they won't allow it.
That's right. Yeah, there's no two ideology solution here, as it might be said.
I love that.
Because one of the ideologies wants to destroy the other, and the other, unfortunately, has this concept like it can, figure out a way to do, to appease, to get along, to live and let live, or whatever else. And we're not talking about, people here. We're talking literally about ideological worldviews.
Yeah.
And these two worldviews are in conflict. And the people who believe in truth and reality and goodness have got to advocate, in America, have got to come out and advocate for that.
Okay, to add some complexity to everything that's happening with SPLC, I think parents have recently discovered that the SPLC is in our K through 12 schools.
Mm-hmm.
Moms for Liberty's very own Rosalind Hanson spoke in a video that went viral talking about this in Montgomery County, Maryland, finding that the SPLC is deeply embedded into the curriculum. It's embedded into teacher guidance, professional training. State departments of education rely on their resources. They bring in people that they recommend or that work for that organization to come and give DEI trainings.
Mm-hmm.
It is, so I did some research in Wisconsin, was shocked to find out how deeply embedded SPLC is. It was literally in every aspect of DEI on our webpage. I challenge parents, if you're listening, just go to your district's website, go to the board docs, type in Southern Poverty Law Center, or what are the titles of their learning, the titles of their curriculum. I'll find it later. But if you just type in Southern Poverty Law Center, you're going to just find the links, just click the links and you're going to see it. So let's say, okay, yeah, they're on the ropes. Now they're discredited. They're still embedded, and all of these institutions are still using their guidance.
That's right. This is that embedded. This is why this is literally a generational fight. They're completely embedded. And then when people dig in and they see, oh, these programs are in the school, they're going to think, well, we got to get them out of the school. What they're going to find out is that other programs depend upon this program, so you can't just pull it out. And that's how they build all of this out. So what has to happen is a slow process of breaking pieces off, pulling out what can be pulled out, and starting to build replacements that start to drive this stuff out and keep it out. But this year it's SPLC we're finding. Last year it was, the International Planned Parenthood Federation is embedded into everything.
Yes.
And you name the crazy, it was UNESCO the year before that. We were all talking about, of course, now with
they bring in Planned Parenthood to teach human growth and development.
Yes.
In all over, in school districts in all 50 states, they will hire and bring in Planned Parenthood to do the dirty work that no teacher wants to do. They don't want to teach a lot of this stuff.
Right. So this is not an impossible fight. It's just we have to be realistic about the fight that we're in. And the fight is long, the fight is generational, the fight is not against a few bad actors or some bad policies or even a bad worldview, but also against this structural integration into the systems that we depend upon in our society in order to, function. So we've got to answer hard questions about how are we going to, understand these systems? How are we going to change these systems? How are we going to get this stuff out?
Yep.
Maybe how are we going to simplify these systems tremendously so that they're not caught up in this? You can't deeply integrate something that's very simple. And so, we've got to start having some real thinking about how we've organized stuff. And this is a long process. It's going to take a lot of people who are very smart, who are very engaged, who care a lot about the issues, and who are getting informed on not just what's happening, but how it works, and showing up again and again, just like they do.
Well, Planned Parenthood gets funded for human growth and development. In fact, I believe over 80% of public schools rely on Planned Parenthood resources. Where do they get their funding? Most of that.
Probably the taxpayers.
Yep, federal government. So a lot of that's funded through, it's not, let's say, Department of Education.
No.
It's the CDC, it's different health organizations. Come to find that SPLC gets funded for mental health. They have programs where there's curriculum and guidance that they give for mental health, used by state departments of education and school districts, and funded with federal dollars that were earmarked by ESSER funds for mental health. I know that you, our friend Kelly Shanowski, has been talking about this for so long, and I've finally been able to actually connect the dots in my area, and I think a lot of other parents are too, that we are finding that federal funds, federal ESSER funds earmarked for mental health, we are finding them in school districts, millions of dollars, and they are bringing in professional development that centers on DEI and, for example, one example, a mental health seminar with 7th graders that had a pizza and talked about sex in ways that are shocking. I know I've talked about this, but asking them what positions they prefer. One question was like, I would like someone to
11,
lick,
12?
tickle, touch. Yes, they're 12, they're 11, 12, 13. What barrier methods are your favorite? Role play. They asked them to break out in role play. I mean, pretty sick stuff. This was a school district, Crandon School District in Wisconsin, 1,700 people. Okay, this is a very, very small, I'm sorry, 17,000 people. 17,000 people, I'll redo that. In the Crandon School District, 17,000 people, very small, voted overwhelmingly for Trump. They had no idea what they were doing. And even, we don't want to give a pass, but even the school superintendent was like, they just applied for I just wanted the funding. And this is who they recommended we bring in. And they shrugged their shoulders like, we didn't know.
Right. This is what, I mean, so a couple of things. One, is, again, the systemic nature of the way that they integrate is the thing that we actually have to fight. So now, we're having a much different conversation than we were having about these issues 3 years ago, even, because we're starting to understand how they've built the apparatus that does this. And this is the part that we've all got to continue right now. This is the digging. It's not just about the ideology now. We've got to dig and see how they're doing it. And like I said, we've got to figure out, we've got to be really smart and think about how we can build the system so that it's not got so many of these layers and so much of this funding coming from here and there and how can I get it. That's incredibly important. The other thing is, here at the symposium that's coming on tonight, we have another speaker, Alex Newman, a friend of ours. Alex, makes the point when you talk about these sexual materials, the pizza for the 7th graders and these very probing questions, he's done a very good job making the point that the purpose of those questions in most cases is to make 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds think that stuff is normal for 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, right? Like those might be conversations that adults have, but what you have when you have a 12-year-old, a 12-year-old boy is going to start thinking, wow, what are my friends writing down? What do they think? What are they doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Is there something wrong with me that I'm not doing any of this, or that I don't think about any of this, that I care about baseball cards or whatever it is? And the point is the subversion. And this is why I just said, that we've got to look at the structural level, but we've also got to understand the operational ideological program of trying to undermine the child's psychology so that the child is disrupted and will break from his family and be able to have new values implanted into his thinking. And these are the disruptive methods. So there's a paper, I quote this paper in my book, The Queering of the American Child. It's by a guy called Kevin Kumashiro. The paper was titled Against Repetition. So the idea is we don't repeat society. We're going to have a new society. So you're not going to repeat good old American capitalist, free market values in the economy, truth, justice, and the American way for Superman. We're not going to repeat those values. We're going to have new values. We're going to not repeat them. Against repetition. And what he explains is that in Education for Social Justice, one of the purposes is to introduce these ideas in order to create what he calls an emotional crisis in the students. In other words, to traumatize them.
Yes.
He doesn't say traumatize. He says create an emotional crisis. He said it's the educator's responsibility to create the emotional crisis and then to, in his own words, structure the environment around the learner so that they resolve the crisis productively, which he explains means in favor of social justice initiatives. This was written in 2002, if I remember right, 2001, 2 or 3, 2, I think. So this is a paper that's 25 years old at this point. This is a very heavily, thousands of citations. This isn't some fringe paper we dug up to, do a gotcha. This is a very significant paper. We have to understand that this integration has a purpose, and that purpose is this traumatize and then reorient program. The real name for that's critical pedagogy, or culturally responsive education, or whatever, culturally relevant education. But the point is actually to psychologically injure children to reorient their values according to some new program. And that means breaking them from their parents, breaking them from their faith, breaking them from their country, and everything that they were meant to grow up with.
And that's the answer when people ask why. Why would you do this? Why are you giving this material to a 7th grader? The presenter, by the way, they, them pronouns, identified as trans. When you look at their bio, hold on a second. You can just leave that, honey. Thank you. Oh, that's okay. No, that's okay. Yeah, you can just switch for the Disney. It's my daughter.
No, I don't think I've been in
James, this is Bella. Bella, this is James.
Hello, Bella.
You can put that. Okay, where are you going? Okay.
It's like 2 blocks that way down the water. I've been there. It's really good.
Yeah. Now keep your phone on. Don't leave. Don't go far. All right. Just come here when you're done. Yeah, time out to be mom. What was I going to say? So here's.
You're asking why would they do this?
Yeah, this is what they often ask. Why? Why would you present this to 7th graders? Here's the caveat, and it comes into parental rights. Why wouldn't you let parents know that you were going to have this special presentation? This falls under human growth and development. If everything about this presentation was a sex ed, human growth and development, but it was labeled mental health. It was about, it was supposed to be a conversation about consent.
Yeah, well.
A conversation about consent. It was all about sex.
Well, yeah, and it's all about not getting the parents' consent to have the conversation with their kids. There's kind of an irony there. But this is the thing, is the point is, David Horowitz, a lot of people know who he is. He wrote a book called Radical Son. He was in the Students for Democratic Society, which is a communist youth organization. And then he became a conservative. He left his life of leftism, and he explains in Radical Son that the philosophy, a lot of people attribute this to me because I've said it so many times, but it's David Horowitz's quote, is that and he says that it's their quote, the issue is never the issue is always the revolution. Why would they do this? Well, because they need a society based on new values. And that means there's a pipeline of institutions, whether that's the family. When I say institutions, I don't mean like the NIH. I mean that counts. I don't mean the schools. That counts. But parents, education in general, religion, family, like this entire kind of social milieu that we're in, pop culture, entertainment, media, there is an entire set of institutions that what it does is it helps us raise our children. It takes our values as adults and transmits them to the next generation as they grow up, allows them to try out, life kind of on their own terms, but also, with boundaries, and to discover, what values work and what values don't. And they want that interrupted. So when we say the issue is never the issue is always the revolution is in your kids. Because what they need is your kids to have fundamentally different values than the ones you had, because they hate the society that your values produced. And the only way to get new values is to apparently traumatize your kids, to lie to parents about it, to not actually get consent.
To literally brainwash them.
And they've built this huge, like I keep mentioning, this integrated apparatus in order to be able to keep doing this for as long as possible. And it is literally brainwashing, if you want that term, or thought reform, or ideological remolding. These are the terms that were used in Mao's China for the exact processes. And I can show you the line of citations that they are the exact processes that critical pedagogy or culturally relevant teaching or this sex ed stuff, these are all dependent on the kind of thought reset, the thought reform or ideological remolding of Mao, of the communists in China who wanted to turn everybody into the perfect Chinese communist. And the goal is the kids.
Yeah, and this doesn't mean that they're all having secret meetings with secret handshakes saying, we're all communists, we're gonna do this, we're gonna indoctrinate the kids. And so I think that that's the misconception, like, oh, you guys are conspiracy, oh, like this is all like, no, this isn't,
a lot of the teachers, a lot of the people that participate in this process aren't doing it thinking, I want to brainwash children
Right.
or I want to sexualize children. They think that they're actually saving children.
That's right. Yeah, I actually had a friend who met with a high-level executive at CASEL, the Collective for Academic Social Emotional Learning, whatever the C is, collaborative something, I don't know, one of these communist words. And he met with the director of CASEL, not the director, an executive at CASEL, I think a vice president level position, and talked with this lady and asked her, I mean, he's very knowledgeable about what it really is, about how social emotional learning really is thought reform, how it's manipulating emotional and social circumstances to bend the values of kids. And he asked these probing questions and came away completely convinced that this person at the executive level working for like the arch enemy organization doesn't have the slightest idea about any of it. It's just totally brainwashed on the ideology that this is important for kids in order to protect them, to bring them up. A lot of kids don't have great parents. We got to give them the right emotional values. Society's changed. We've got to be a lot more inclusive. And they just fully believed in it. So you got to remember that woke, in some senses, is an ersatz religion, a replacement or substitute religion. And it's just like Christians are going to do the Great Commission without some kind of a secret board meeting to tell them, go out and do this. These people believe the things that they profess to believe in all but the most cynical of cases, and they are acting on an upside-down worldview, thinking they're doing good when they're actually doing harm. They think that they have to rescue or save kids from their parents because the society that their parents represent is so bad and so harmful to so many people. And so a lot of them have no idea. It's not some huge conspiracy, although some of the funding might be conspiratorial, that matters. It's a belief system. It is this is when you said it's two worldviews are in the ring slugging it out in this boxing match. And we've got to understand that we're up against something that thinks this way, that actually thinks that our society is fundamentally the problem. Of course, it tells us a solution too, which is to teach why our society is fundamentally great. That it's the greatest society on earth, which nobody claims that it's perfect, but it does claim that it's the best anybody's figured out how to do, and the schemes that they're offering us in replacement have been tried in the past in different forms, and they've all been catastrophes.
I'm thinking, as you're talking, I'm thinking about Solzhenitsyn and Jordan Peterson, and thinking about the systems, these really evil, corrupt systems that lasted for a long time. And afterwards, when the collapse comes and they interview, most people did not agree, but they went along, like the book Ordinary Men. And Solzhenitsyn said, we just have to live not by lies. The first time if they just early on would have said, no, that's a lie, and they refused to comply, things would have been different. It was that the majority of normal people that know this is all crazy stayed quiet and they went along. And so I think, do you think that's a call to action? You cannot stay quiet because maybe you will lose something now for speaking out. I think far less now under the Trump presidency. I think really pretty safe to say something, yet still not enough people are saying something, even when it's safe.
Right. Yeah, and we got to teach our children the same thing. I tell young people all the time that every time you tell a lie to fit in, you've sold a piece of your soul.
Yes.
And, people that do political advocacy have to remember every time you tell a lie to get the seat at the table, you've sold a piece of your soul. You've always got to be thinking in terms of, what are you compromising in order to get what you're doing? And we need to be teaching our kids, look, you don't have to be rude to people, you don't have to be mean to people, but you just
have to stand up for your values.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's a huge amount of power. I have a friend who has resisted so much woke that it's kind of shocking. And she says that they've come at her with everything, and she always just says, I don't believe you.
Yeah.
And that just breaks the whole thing down they don't know how to respond. You argue, no, it's not like that, and they argue back, and you get this fight. But if you just say, I don't believe you.
And you could say things like, you're making me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because use their language, like, I'm right now, I'm really uncomfortable. You're making me, I need a safe space.
Yeah.
And just to say, that's okay. I don't agree with you, and frankly, you're kind of making me uncomfortable the way that you're coming at me. A lot of times, I'm obviously very political and outspoken, and my face is out there, And people think that I am going to, in my private life, constantly talk about politics. I don't.
I don't
Other
either.
people constantly come at me though.
That's right.
Like, Scarlett, what do you think of it? And I'm like, you know what? I'm not working. I don't really want to talk politics. And you're my friend or your family member.
Right.
Like, I love you. Let's just not. But it's often
Right.
other people trying to challenge you. And frankly, I'm like, I don't punch down. So
Yeah.
you don't want to get in these conversations because you know a lot and it's not fair. So it's better to just, it's better to just try to keep the peace, but not affirm what they believe.
That's right. That's
Stand
right.
for what you believe, but you don't have to go to war all the time.
That's right. Yeah, I think it's incredibly important teaching our kids to not compromise on their values, and not to be afraid to say something and to come tell you. Obviously, if one of these conflicts comes up, whether it's with a friend, especially if it's with a teacher, or something, so that they can have your backup and you can parent. Well, because a lot of times they're going to hear something that they're going to have a question about. Like they're going to hear something and they're not going to know where their values land on that issue, and that's the point, right? That's what the upbringing of your children is about. And so you want to foster that, teach them to stand up for their values, and to bring it to you every single time one of these weird questions or weird circumstances comes up.
Have a Socratic debate with them. Don't yell at them and tell them what you're saying is wrong. Just say, okay, let's talk about this and be reasonable, present the facts, and then you're always, as a parent, you're the person that's reasonable. You're the person that's fair. You're the person willing to listen, and they'll realize the other side shuts that down and says, oh, well, your parents are racist, evil, homophobic, bigots, transphobes. And you'll see how quickly that family members and friends will say, wait a second, they're not like that at all. You're actually kind of crazy. And I always say, ask someone one question, like, do you think men can get pregnant, and see what their answer is.
Right.
Then you kind of get a good reaction. But I want to talk about, towards the end, different definitions. Like, for example, consent. When we hear about a conversation about consent, we're going to think that, let's say for young kids like 7th graders, middle school, that they're going to have a conversation about saying no, you can't touch me, no.
Right.
I will not do something. I don't want to be physical with you. No, I won't do this. We think it's a good, healthy conversation about setting boundaries.
Right.
But the woke don't think that.
No, it's about what you can say yes to. It's literally,
That's weird.
It's exactly backwards.
It's so weird.
It's literally exactly backwards.
Yeah.
It's about teaching them to positively affirm what they want to say yes to, or what they think they might want to say yes to. And so it's like it turns the issue inside out, right? And this is it's confusing for an adult, it's very confusing for an adolescent, and it's beyond the pale of confusing for a child. So it's very important for us to understand again and again. I think this is been my bread and butter for 10 years now, is that when the woke use words, they mean something different by that word, and we don't have an excuse anymore. It's our responsibility to figure out what in the world they mean by that word, how they're using that word, how is it getting applied in practice. Make no assumptions. As I sometimes say, every woke term conceals an agenda. You've got to get in and find out, what do they mean by that word? How are they using it? And you're going to have to get their documentation, or you're going to have to ask questions or whatever to find out, because the answer is almost always, it's either defined in terms of some weird power dynamic thing, like racism that they've claimed exists everywhere, or it's the exact idea turned backwards. It's turned upside down.
I think a lot of parents and a lot of community members that I talk to locally, they think, well, why would you want to sexualize kids? That doesn't make any sense, except that, because that's kind of what a predator would do. Why is it that woke ideology, woke curriculum, the things that we see in classrooms and in state departments of education that is the most egregious, is trying to give agency and almost adulthood to young kids?
Yeah, that's actually the program. It's almost always the goal is to treat children. This is actually a little bit complicated to explain in full, but the goal is, in fact, to invert that We even see this, by the way, on the right now as well. We see the right-wing Gen Z saying that the older Republican Party has to meet them where they are, right? So now it's the young people who are in the driver's seat and the old people who are okay boomer that don't have any real advice. And you're seeing the same inversion happening with young people over here. And you start to see some of the reason, because if you start to feed young people more agency than, say, their parents are okay with, or that
then
they're
they're mentally capable, psychologically capable of handling.
But they become, I don't want to use this word glibly, but they become entitled to believing that they have that level of agency. Yep. So then the parent or some other authority figure saying, you're a little young for this, whatever, is now a problem. So you can create that tension.
Now they hate you.
Correct. But the complicated bit, and this is, I think, the nature of my remarks here tonight for the event, is that there are kind of two ways to view parental rights.
Yes.
And the right and the left don't think about it the same way. But the same three things are always in play. And there are three entities when you talk about parental rights that are relevant. They are the parent, the child, and the state. And the way that the right or traditional people see this is that the parents have the maximum authority. They slowly and under their own discretion cede that authority to the child as the child matures according to the way that the parent determines they're ready to do it. Bearing in mind that the parent is legally responsible up to the age of 18 in our society, or age of consent in whichever society. And then the state, traditionally, we see as like the object of last resort, where there's actually serious neglect or serious physical abuse or sexual abuse or something, and the state has to intervene to protect a child from a genuinely problem parent who has gone into the criminal or into the truly damaging. The left takes advantage of the fact that, even as you heard me talking about it, it's not clear where true damaging begins and ends. And so what they try to do, their goal is to increase the power of the state, but they're doing it by increasing the power of the child. So they increase the power of the child more and more and more, so that there are more and more and more of these mistakes, and so that the child has more and more issue to say, my mom won't let me blah, 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 my mom doesn't affirm me, or whatever it is, so that they can create the claim that the parent is now abusive and the state can usurp the authority that used to belong to the parent. So it's a manipulation to increase the apparent agency of the child in order to shift that authority off of the parent to the state. And it's a very kind of complicated thing, but they've written papers about this themselves and explained this very clearly, that it's parent, child, and state, and what they're trying to do is get the power off of the parent and to the state, and they're using the child as a vehicle.
And so you see Colorado, Washington State, California, if a parent doesn't affirm a child's chosen gender identity, the government, the state, is coming in and seizing custody of that child.
Yeah, I call that gender trafficking. And you see how it works, though. They empower the child to think in terms of their gender identity, knowing it's going to create a conflict with the parents. And then the conflict with the parents becomes the justification for the state to step in and take power away from the parent and move that power to the state. And so these three entities, there's the traditional view and then there's the leftist view. And if we don't understand that this is the game that they're playing, it's very hard to interrupt the game that they're playing. But the question you're asking is, why do they do all of these things, whether it's consent, whether it's this kind of affirmation game with gender ideology, or the student-led classroom, or whatever, the democratic classroom.
And the corruption of parental rights. That they have a different definition that was made clear to me on Thursday in the committee hearing, where Chloe Cole was amazing. She spoke, and she's just so compelling. Even Democrats on that committee, it's like mic drop. There's not much they can say. But to hear Senator Bernie Sanders, talking to their lead witness about parental rights, and basically it's like they went to the Moms for Liberty website and started to read off of the website, but they only believed in parental rights when parents want to work with doctors to mutilate healthy genitals and to give kids puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. Then they're like, oh yeah, that's a decision between a child and a parent and their doctor. But in all these other cases, they are keeping secrets with children from parents. They are taking custody of children from parents. How do you explain this? How do they live in this world with these different views?
Because basically an inversion of everything, but the issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. The goal is always, even if it's subconscious, the goal is they don't explicitly necessarily think, oh, I've got to raise the agency of the child so he'll be in conflict with the parent. The goal is always that the oppressed group needs to have its agency raised and the oppressor needs to be knocked down. They have a whole theory of how parent is oppressing child, so the child's authority. The child has not been socialized as much. The child is more susceptible to new ideological beliefs, new values. The parent is going to infuse the wrong values into them. You've got to get in early. So you're going to elevate the child. And then, like I said, the reality, though, is that the child becomes the vehicle. The way that Bernie Sanders talks about this is, oh, it's a conversation between the child and the parent. So you elevate the child, you create the conversation. No child, and very few children and parents would have ever had this conversation 10 years ago.
Yes.
And so you elevate the child, you force the conversation, and
force the
then
conversation,
you
yeah.
use the state to say one answer is right and one answer is wrong.
Yep.
And you take the power away from the parent and move the power to the state. And this is the power to raise and direct the upbringing of the child that's in question. And it's a very sophisticated play that ironically doesn't require somebody to know the program. All they have to know is that all they have to believe is that there's an oppressor-oppressed dynamic between the parent and the child, and that the state is the tool that can fix it. And so you elevate the child to take their oppression away, you depress the parent, and then you use the state to step in and relocate power. And it goes off of the oppressor in order to liberate the oppressed, but really what it's doing in every case is empowering the state to gain more power in the name of the liberation. And the child is the oppressed object in this particular dynamic.
Well, this is really helpful to know because with this knowledge, you can understand this opposing ideology and then combat it better. In closing, my call to action is to inform your senators, because I think even the senators that were on the dais that were running that committee hearing, I wish they would reach out to Moms for Liberty because I could have provided them, and like all the hundreds of women here could have provided them real life stories of how this leftist ideology and this worldview absolutely does not believe in affirming and supporting parental rights. They do everything they can to work against it. And here's the example. So you could have just called a spade with Bernie Sanders right away. So at the state level, at the federal level, inform your elected representatives, particularly if they're friendly to hearing that information. Show up at your state legislature, and of course, show up in your school board meetings. Find out what's happening and build relationships with teachers, with administrators. Be there, be at all the meetings. Just be a visible presence and make sure that you are well aware of your opt-out rights. So, what is your call to action in closing?
My call to action is not to give up. It's not to get frustrated with the thing being as big as it is and as in some cases evil as it is. It's to understand that we've already passed some of the first stages of the fight. People know what's going on ideologically to a degree. There are still nuances, of course. They understand, in fact, more and more that there's a system in which it works. And so we're actually making progress. It can feel very frustrating. There are a lot of setbacks. It feels like we're up against an impossible thing. But don't give up. We're actually making progress. A lot of us had the wrong timeline. We thought we're going to get involved, and in 2 years we're going to set the ship straight. 30 years.
Oh yeah.
30 years.
Marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, that's right. And you're going to carry the torch for your part of it. Don't burn yourself out.
Yeah.
Pass the torch when you have to, but stay as involved as you can. When you know these things, you have a responsibility to teach other people these things and to show people so that they can pick up the torch, or a second one and carry it into this fight too, because this is going to take a lot of hands over a lot of years. But don't despair. We're actually making progress. We're having completely different conversations
that we're having
now.
These committee hearings is progress. And as we continue to do more than that and actually get legislation passed at the federal level and the state level, it's all progress that a lot of these senators just a few years ago, they didn't want to touch these topics. Now they are running on culture war issues. They recognize that these are 80-20 issues that they can win on because you show that the opposition, no matter what they say, if they think that the government can keep secrets from parents. If they think that men can get pregnant, people start to question, are they like their mental capacity, like they're weird. I don't know if I can elect someone and trust somebody who has these just outrageous beliefs.
Yeah, so people move faster than politicians, and you've got to remember that. And then politicians move faster than administrators and bureaucrats.
Yeah.
And so this is why this is this long fight, because people like you, Moms for Liberty, have been showing up for years now, for over 5 years now, and banging on this issue, making this an issue, talking to people, forcing this into the national conversation, because this has kept happening and happening and nobody gave up. What we have is the situation now where the politicians are starting to change. And in the politicians, you're going to lead to where, I mean, just look at some of the things that President Trump did as soon as he took office. Now you've got some of these senators, you're having committee hearings, but you also had things like the expose of USAID, the indictment of SPLC. These things are all moving because the people spoke first. The politicians eventually got around to listening, and cowardly as they might be, stepped into the fray. And the administrative and institutional bodies, the bureaucrats, will follow, but the pressure has to keep going.
And to end, we are in California, then the grassroots start to run for office. And then watch out, because Sonia Shaw, in the surprise upset in the California races, was the #1 vote getter in a run for the California, I think, school superintendent. That's their title. So she doesn't have money. She didn't have the supportive teachers unions, but she had parents, and she worked her butt off. She just showed up. She's the Chino School Board president, and she will say it like it is. Press conferences, social media, she's everywhere fighting. And look at, in her grassroots army, they were so successful. No matter what happens in November, that success that she had to get this far is tremendous. And I think it should be inspirational to anyone out there who wonders, am I making a difference?
Grassroots are making a difference all over the country. California, Colorado, you look at it, it's happening.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks, James. I'll see you on stage tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
That was great. I loved that interview. To the point, and covered a lot of topics. So again, I was just going through social media to see what's happening. We'll do a quick close, but there is a couple of interesting things I thought I would talk about that were in the wheelhouse of this conversation. So I'm going to share my screen. Oops. Let's go. Let's get rid of this. All right. All right. This is pretty funny. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
Over the past few months, and especially since starting the War on Beauty, I have set out to read some of these old, difficult, historical books. And while I would consider myself a very well-educated person, I went to a great top-of-the-line prep school and graduated from USC with a bachelor's degree with honors. In approaching these books by people like Plato, Friedrich Schiller, Thomas Carlyle, John Ruskin, these are the intellectual greats of all Western history, I have a very hard time reading them, especially in the beginning. It was almost unintelligible to me. It was like reading a foreign language. During this process, I have started to keep a running list of vocabulary words that I don't know in my notes app, which is growing quite long. And even now, when I scroll past them, even though I have gone over the definitions for everything, it's still very hard to remember what those words even mean. But there were words that once I did understand them and read them within the context of the sentence, greatly deepened and enriched the reading experience. But our vocabulary, just like practically everything else in our world, has become condensed and stripped down to the very bare minimum. So my younger brother Hudson the other day was just reading to me a passage from George Orwell's 1984 about how the totalitarian government systematically reduced the English language to simpler and fewer words so that civilians would not commit thought crimes. That the more simple and reduced our language was, the more simple and confined our thinking will be. And that is happening today. It's actually shown in studies that our vocabulary has declined and shrunk between the 1970s and the 2010s, with the biggest declines among those with a bachelor's or graduate degree. That we can retain the very basic skills to understand what our forebears wrote is so deeply critical. The past contains a vast amount of the beauty that we have on planet Earth, and it's all contained in the written word, and it is our tether to an incredibly deep well of knowledge.
Wow. Whoa. Mic drop. I guess if anyone, Edie Hirsch, cultural literacy, boy. And this was back in the day when I read cultural literacy, when I had just started college. That was one of the books that I had to read for an English class. And even then, the case was being made that we are not giving kids, we're not teaching them to read complicated works, great works, political philosophy. And in doing so, they lack this kind of cultural competency. So they couldn't pick up a newspaper from the late 1800s, maybe John Adams writing a letter to Thomas Jefferson. They would grab that, and that letter would be just a mystery to them. Could there be so much of that language they wouldn't understand? There would be references to great works, to books, to philosophers. There'd be phrases that you could see the phrase, but in order to fully capture the full meaning of the letter, the paper, you need to understand all of the historical context behind the phrase. And it adds, just like she said, it enriches the meaning. It makes everything more profound. 100% right. What has happened to language, and that's something that I just talked about with James. What has happened to language? Is fewer words, and kids are not reading. They're not reading Plato even now in college. They're reading Diary of a Wimpy Kid in 6th grade, and then progressing to gender queer. There's a lot of books that I was really having trouble with, and even my kids' high school during a certain time. They've course corrected a lot, but during COVID, and it had nothing to do with banning, and it's not even the sexual content. It had to do with the fact that why the hell is my kid reading a comic book in English class in 9th grade? And in advanced English classes, honors, AP English classes, where are the great works? I don't, instead give them articles or alternative things, and teachers say, well, we have to give them these like comic books because they won't read anything else. Well, and that's kind of our problem with the Chromebooks. I think, listen, you have to have computers now, so in high school, but I think kids need actual hardcover books. I still love my hardcover books to write in them, to highlight. I think, and studies are showing there is something about reading a book, reading a newspaper, like that active part of reading an actual book, not on a screen. You learn more. Just like there's something to cursive writing where people thought, oh, we can just eliminate cursive writing. But there is something about the cursive writing that helps kids to learn. It helps them to memorize. It's their earlier this week talked about Chesterton's fence, that sometimes we're so busy taking things down because we have something new, shiny, fancy, that we're not considering why it was there to begin with. Why is it that for thousands of years we were learning this way, and while we're advancing to new technology, and of course using it, because right now, look at I can do this podcast from my house. There's some really great things about technology, but we also cannot handicap our children. Like I learned to read, to write, all of that back when phonics was still a thing. Now it's coming back, but before a whole language. So there's certain things, even using AI, there's things I can do as an adult, as a Gen Xer, because I have all of that background knowledge. But when you give the keys to the kingdom, all of this, you present that to young kids that don't have any of that background knowledge, then what are we doing? Are they missing something? And it turns out they are, because there's studies that are now looking back at the last 10 years of Chromebooks, and it's not good. They're having an effect, and it's not necessarily a positive one. Now, balance it out has a lot of good effect. There's kids with dyslexia, kids with specific learning disabilities for which technology enhances their life and gives them the ability to do things they never would have been able to do. That's for sure. I don't want to go back to the Stone Age, but I think we're so busy, inventing the thing, seeing if we can do something. We're not stopping to think if we should. A line from Michael Crichton. You have to think, should we be doing this? And do we have the ethical capacity to take this on? And I know I've talked with friends like, oh, well, China, AI, we have to be competitive. Yeah, I get it. It's a conundrum. And I'll tell you what, those monstrosities, those data centers, we gotta just worry about all of that stuff. Everything's moving at such a fast pace, but I'm going to do another reel about this. This Corey DeAngelis reposted that video, and it's the post of someone else's. Now I have to find it. Wow. I think that so much of what we talk about was just sort of nailed in that little video right there. So I think time is. So I think it's a lot to ponder. Where it's July, the school year is about to start. Things, you can feel the shift. We've got so much possibility in the air. There are kids that are homeschooling and they're thriving. There are kids in charter schools that are thriving, in private schools, and there are public schools that have great AP programs. Kids are really smart. I have 5 kids. I'm surrounded by the Zoomers, and the next generation. Oh, we were just looking that up, what the name of the next generation is. The Alphas. the alphas, because now, see. So I'm surrounded by the alphas and the Zoomers, and I think there's so much hope, so much hope. My kids actually read books. They enjoy reading books. It's such a breath of fresh air, because I think during COVID had some struggles with like kids just wanting to always be on the screens and stuff. I think there's been sort of a rebound, because my youngest 2 daughters are just obsessed with actual physical books. We are constantly going to secondhand book fairs and stuff, and I have to be on guard, because so many books are just crap and the cover can be deceiving. But I don't mind if they're for reading like some kind of summer romances, as long as they're teen. But you have to there are good websites where you can run the title of a book through and see the rating of it. Is it okay? Is there going to be inappropriate content for my youngest daughter? So that's a new world. That's something that we have to do. But as long as they're reading, I read when I was like 13, my grandma would read these like Regency romance historical, and I got into that. But I was just reading, consuming, but I had to read all the classics. I had to read Rebecca Sunnybrook Farms, Heidi, A Little Princess. I loved Anne of Green Gables, one of my favorites. Little Women, Little Men, just all of the classics. And then that's how I started. And the love of reading, there's no greater gift to learning is trying to get your kids to love reading. And the only way to do that is to read in front of them too, and just encourage it. And I'm glad that I have a family that does love reading. I'm the one now, because of my job. It's a lot of social media where I feel like they're the ones telling me, Mom, read a book, put down the phone, put down the iPad and the computer. And I'm looking forward to, on vacation, bringing nothing but a stack of books on the beach, because you can't bring a device, and just reading. So any recommendations, let me know. There's a couple. I've just found some good, like I want to bring something where that's more work related. I have actually got a book that's not necessarily a bunch of fun, but it's really good. The Queering of American Education. I have been meaning to finish that one for a while. I want to bring something that's like mystery, and something that's just a fun, like I think I'm going to bring Pride and Prejudice and read that again. I've read it like 12 times, but it's been a while. And I'm a pretty fast reader. And once you just get into it, I feel like, even with myself, like right now, it's been a long day, a lot of work. And by the end of the day, work, kids, you're searching for the words. You've now getting everything down to 280 characters and all of that. And then an over-reliance. I think a lot of people over-relying on Grammarly or AI or anything like that can just rob you of the richness and beauty of language. And then sometimes you just want to rest your eyes, because now getting older, the glasses, all of that. So things that I would recommend, and I'm actually going to start to do a few things in like a culture corner to talk about movies I've just watched the HBO Sam Adams. I'm sure many of you are like, where have you been? But it was wonderful. I cried. I get up early. I set my alarm really early because I have to start work early, but I just need to chill with my coffee and watch something. And I've been watching Sam Adams. I just finished it. I'm going to rewatch it. It was so wonderful. It was directed by Tom Hanks. It was amazing. I learned, I history major and all, and I learned so much. And then I'm researching as I'm watching it. Ken Burns' documentary on the American Revolution. so highly recommend it. So highly recommend it. And I've got a chat group going where there's a bunch of my friends are starting to watch it. They're like, oh, this is really good. So it's, there's some really good, these are the summer things. And like I said, now for just pure female, I just want to watch just something romantic. I highly recommend, and and I'm like, guys, I'm sending this everywhere. You got to watch, I think it's Seeking Persephone, but I'm going to find out. You got to watch this. It's so good. And again, they're like, I watched it. Where have you been? But it's so good. And when it was over, I'm like, no, it's done. Oh man, he just finally confessed his love. Don't want to ruin the ending. And I guess they're going to be doing another season. Please, Angel Studios, please do another season. I loved it. Find more books like this because it's just like when they kiss, they're not like making out and stuff. Like when they kiss, it's so, you're like, even when they touch hands, it's like it's electric, just like it's so great. It's so great. And that's the way it can be. Nowadays, it's like they're naked in 2 seconds and there's no romance. There's no like longing. And so this was so appropriate. You could watch it in front of your daughters. And there's nothing, it's really sweet. It's really good. And it's really good, like well acted. It's not corny, cheesy, kind of like it looks like it was, there's some of the old Christian movies that you're like, oh yeah, this is not great, but hey, I want to support, or hey, it's at least it has a good message. This is I'm actually entertained. I actually cried. I loved it. The Beauty and the Beast, the brooding lord of the castle, who and then the poor, poverty-stricken but respectable young lady. It was really good, because you can see I really liked it. So I highly recommend that. I went to see Toy Story with one of my kids. I'm going back to see it. I thought it was really good. I thought the message about screens was really good. There's this one point in the movie where the toys are perched on the roof and they're looking into the households in the neighborhood, and blue light, and kids just zoned out with the TV on and a phone and like a pad in front of them. So not only there's like 2 screens going on, and I thought, wow. And the toys are sad, like no one's playing. And you look around the yards and no one's playing outside. No one, they're not. But it ends good. But I thought it was one of probably my favorite Toy Story. I always liked Toy Story 3. Cried. I think I watched that before my son went to college. Cried my eyes out. But it was good. It was good. I thought Disney did a good job on that one. There probably was a little bit of woke stuff, but overall, I liked it. It was good, and it was a good message for parents and kids, like touch grass. And you're thinking, as the parents are giving their 8-year-old daughter an iPad and just letting her zone out on it all day. You're just like, what are they thinking? And then, I think a lot of parents have to do a gut check, and like, it happens. So it's easy to judge, but there are, in different ways, video games, different things, letting kids especially in the summer when you just need a break. But those are some good recommendations that I can make. And I'll continue to do that because pop culture does matter. Another really great thing is that, because my Lord, it had become impossible to find comfortable, modest clothes to wear that weren't super expensive. So some of my favorite stores, even some of my very favorite stores, suddenly like everything's plunging or cut off, um, back exposed, just not comfortable. And then the prices are really high. So what's a really cool trend is there are a lot of boutiques popping up. And when over 4th of July, when I was in small town Wisconsin, a lot of boutiques like are carrying really pretty dresses. Like, and I'm wearing one now, but modest. They call these like modesty panels, like they're not plunging or there's not gapes. Comfortable long dresses, cute little appropriately short dresses, not super short. So now if we could not only take that trend to the teenagers, because I don't know, seeing like teenage girls wearing these like short dresses where it's like t-shirts basically. But so that's and the prices are really good. So they're um, just boutique clothing and more modest. And I really do think that this is part. A lot of the stores they're Maha stores, like they're selling lip glosses that don't have that don't have any of the chemicals. A lot more homemade, made in America products, soaps, even like cool. I mean, it's just so cool, and a lot of these are female owned, and I think it's great. It's kind of it's the rebellion. It's the against sort of the mass, kind of mass consumer. Here's your chemicals. Like, so I think I can see that there are people that are actually like building the alternative soaps to use, the alternative snacks to eat, the alternative makeup, alternative clothing, because you walk into the mall and there's nothing. There literally like you're just maybe there's a department store, maybe we'll have a few things, and then you check out the price, and it's insane. The price is insane. So I think moving away from the big brands and then these smaller brands and um, these local shops, and I think it's a really cool trend, and I wanted to talk about that more than like I got this really cute mama necklace for $20. It's really like just finding these cool these cool fun things, because we're all like you can say, oh, this culture sucks and it's woke and I don't want to, but we want to dress nice, we want to have nice things, and we want to be able to afford them. We want to have date nights, we want to go out and get lunch with the girlfriends. We want all of those things. That's okay to want those things. And so we need to create a marketplace where we can get those things. And if we build it, they will come. And I think we're in the midst of building, and just something new and different. I think it's really exciting. I mean, I have so many friends that have chicken farm, like that. I'm not farmer in the Dell. Like a city girl, and grew up in Milwaukee, grew up in poverty, like, and I have no interest to, I think farms are beautiful. I have no interest to have a chicken coop and all that stuff, but I love it that other people do. And I have friends that I would never have believed it, but they are really getting into their chicken coop and now opening up like farm stands and selling fresh eggs. And these are not women that you like 10 years ago, you would have thought it. And so I think it's really cool. I think it's part of what the Trump administration is doing. And I think that maybe there's even some that would not want to give credit to the Trump administration, but that's where the credit has to go where it's due. The Maha movement and Secretary Kennedy, and just this what's happening with, I would even say like with Turning Point, with young women saying, hey, I want to be a mom, and that's cool. I thought today watching, I aired the press briefing with Carolyn Levitt, and in the new media seat, there was, I forget her name, but one of the reporters' first question was, hey, Carolyn, what do you say to young girls that want to have a career and they want to have babies and marriage? And so I love that that was a question asked, because it's the reality. Our kids, my daughter's having her second baby. She's young, she's married, she's graduated from nursing school. How do you balance? Well, she's moving back home so I can help her. So you're going to be seeing, I have one grandson, he's 2. I have another one on the way. So I'm gonna be doing these podcasts, sometimes birthing babies. Love it. And that's the new grandma. I'm the new grandma. Not and I still have a daughter just graduated from 8th grade. This is how we do things. Rachel Campos Duffy, who I adore and I love her family, and Evita. I mean, Rachel looks like she's in her late 30s, early 40s. She's beautiful. 9 kids. She has little ones. She still has kids in elementary school, and she has a daughter who just had a baby, Rosita, who is the cutest baby ever, I swear. Michael, Alfonso, hey, Michael, hey guys. But that's the new grandma. Like, there's just, I think it's great. It's a culture of life. And for me, just as things were getting quiet, which is boo, no bueno, now I've got some grandkids coming. I've another son married, probably some more grandkids coming, and I could not be more thrilled. Bring them on. I want to fill up this house again. We bought and restored this house. It was like many, many years of restoring this house, and to get to a point where kids leave, it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Are we going to sell this house? And then kids come home, and now you have grandkids, and that's great. And I think that that's something that we want to recognize and celebrate. So a little bit off the topic, talking about culture and family, but Unleashed, you never know what's going to happen. I'm a talker, and this is during the day. Usually about this time, there'll be 20,000 people watching, and I'll be just rambling on about a lot of things. But I think that's why I'm doing this show, and why I'm hoping in the fall to find some other females to consistently do like our Moms on the Right. I loved like getting a group of women together that aren't crazy like The View, but getting a younger group of women together, but various ages. I wouldn't consider myself younger, but my age, 30s, 20s, and really just talk about the things that matter, like what's on your mind, what matters to you. I think this is the way we can start to relate more to younger women, and frankly, in conservatism, like there's not a whole lot that we're offering them. And the podcasting world's great, but it is male dominated. Love all of the great guys doing conservative podcasting, but we don't have a lot. We need more relatable women doing this kind of thing and talking about things that matter. And it's okay that it's maybe a sliver, but I mean, my daughter is right now, when she was outside, we went to the pool, she's crocheting by the pool. I don't know how to crochet, but one of my daughters is crocheting by the pool. Like, I'm telling you, like these Zoomers and these alphas, they're going retro. She's crocheting. And it's really cool. I'm like, okay, that's neat. What got you into that? Well, she's been hanging out, spending time with grandma, driving her around, and started taking up crocheting. So our kids spending time with their grandparents, aunts, learning some things. Now I gotta teach more of those girls to cook and not make such a mess while doing it. Um, but you have if a girl that can cook, whoa, it's a big deal because a lot of people aren't cooking. They also don't know how to properly clean. I'm kind of a clean freak. Teach your kids to clean, your sons how to do laundry, and teach your sons how to clean. Like this, I think, um, the generation before, there was just like it's okay to be messy all the time. It's it shows like I'm so busy. I'm just so into my kids or this or that my like everything's just a mess. That's a trend that I think is going away, thankfully. But things don't. But because there's storage solutions, things don't have to be perfect. We also don't need so much stuff. And I think we're moving away from a lot of stuff. Instead, it's quality. And instead of back to like learning toys, I'm seeing a lot of that, a lot more focus on just manipulative toys. It's really cool. I went to and these had gone out, like COVID like killed a lot of this business. And anyway, like there used to be with my son, we used to go to I believe it was the Harry W. Schwartz bookshop. Wasn't as big of a like chain like Barnes and Noble. And there was a Thomas the Tank Engine train table, and go there. We didn't have a lot of money to go there to play, and maybe every once in a while I could get a train set or I'd find like a used one. And then his dad built a train table because we couldn't afford the actual train table. So he learned how to build it himself, built his first play set. We couldn't afford one of those fancy rainbow play sets, built it, like drew up plans, built it. And this is built our own sandbox. I'd haul furniture from the Goodwill and rummage sales. I'd paint it like shabby chic. Then I'd paint it and sell it sometimes. I just learned the technique. And that was even before YouTube. Now you can go on YouTube and learn how to do so many different things. So these are conversations I have with my daughter, who obviously young, having kids, wants a new bed set. So I'm like, let's go hunting around, find different pieces at rummage sales, and now we're painting it all, and it looks really great. And her husband's sanding it down. Like this is how we got through those early years. This is how our kids will get through, and best memories I ever had. And these are going to be their best memories. Getting the every hack that you can get. If you're first responder, because her husband's going to be a police officer. He was in the Air Force. He just got an accommodation for his service when he was overseas. He just returned a few months ago from the Middle East. And there's a lot of benefits if you're in the military service. Always look into it. There's reduced memberships, free memberships, special days, getting tickets, all sorts of things. So these are the things that I'm trying to teach my kids. They want to go see a play. Well, in college, lots of times, if you take a theater class, you get free tickets. I took a ballet class. I got to go see all of the ballets that were playing at the Performing Arts Center. Just you get free bus passes, just all these things. And I think I like to see that the art of living and seeing things and going to museums and experiencing life and having fest and not just like actually getting out and living. I see that. I see that. It's coming back. with like force. It's coming back. The Great American State Fair, all the 250 celebrations, you just see that people are coming out. And I love that there were so many different exhibits. I'll tell you, I didn't have super high expectations. I wasn't sure what was going on at first, and my expectations weren't super high. They were exceeded. My expectations were exceeded. I can't wait to go back to DC. The month of July got a lot of birthdays. It's family time, a lot of different vacations. I'm going to go see my brother in North Carolina. I've spent time with family. So I take that. I have to still work. Obviously, I'm working now, but take the time off from going to DC because I was getting to be a lot, and I'll start going back again in August. But man, I'm like, boy, I picked the wrong time to take a little break. I got to see the 250 stuff, not all of it, not nearly enough, but I got to see some, and hoping that I can get tickets to the NASCAR thing. Hopefully, I have some friends that'll do me a solid and get me some tickets. Hey, if you're watching, I need some tickets. I didn't ask till. Usually I ask much earlier, and I've delayed in asking, but there's a lot of great people in the Trump administration. They're so unbelievably nice. I will tell you, someone on the inside, everyone is really nice. They try very hard. The tours of the White House, and I've done many tours of the White House because I have a couple great friends, and they're usually watching this show, so they know who they are. She's so wonderful, and she's always like one of the most selfless women I know, and just always trying. They're just always trying to make people happy, especially when they find out that there's a family, the young family, they're in DC. He's ex-military, he's currently in the military. Kids, they're with Turning Point, they started a chapter. There's Moms for Liberty members. They're going to DC. They've never seen the White House. They do everything they can. They bend over backwards to try to accommodate families and folks who've been grassroots people, the backbone, the support of the Trump administration, President Trump. It's not the showy, but just the people that have knocked the doors, done the little things, because those little things are what matters at the end of the day. You could do big ad buy, all of that, but I mean, at the end of the day, of the candidate, you got to be knocking doors, talking to people. They need to be able to look you in the eye, especially here in Wisconsin. I don't know about anyone else, but it takes a lot of time to win over Wisconsinites. I'm finally 6 years later, and it's finally like they have to trust. They need to trust that you are a person of integrity, and do my best. It's not easy. You have to give everybody grace. And I think people look at congressmen and senators and assembly members and state senators, and I know them now, I call them friends, and they think, Lindsey Graham, someone just quoted, that they think like they know what they've got it all together, and it's all, they're either they're so smart they got it all together, or they're maniacal, evil, and plotting like, oh, how will I rule the world today? And none of that is true. They're just people trying. And if you imagine how hard it is just to run your household, imagine trying to do something for a whole state, a country, and how many phone calls you get, I have friends who work at the first, like I have a very good friend that works for one of the best representatives, Dan Knodel. And man, she's amazing. She's a mom. She is a Navy officer. She was a teacher. She's organized and brilliant and funny and smart and all of the things, genuinely like all of the things. And she gets trashed. Oh my gosh, people just call the office because she also, she's in Dan's office and she runs a show there. And it's just like the way that just kind people that are public servants, it's just terrible. And if you're a Republican, don't do that to Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, don't do that. Like, you have a disagreement call, but you don't need to be just so awful. I hate that cluster B personalities on the left they pretty much control. They've been so empowered. We've had to bear the brunt of literal, that's why I say crazy people, I really mean it, literal crazy people that have been empowered and emboldened by the Marxism and the critical theory and the destabilizing force of woke ideology, and how it has just, it's just ripped things apart. But I believe right now what we are seeing is that ideology is finally coming home to roost in the Democratic Party. And don't be fooled, the Democratic Party they're not like singing Kumbaya with these people. They know how dangerous it is. And listen, it's among conservatives, the whole like black pill conspiracy group that they can't find a single positive thing to say. They want to be perpetually angry at somebody. What I realized is that there's some people who, not personally in my life, because it's like right now, I just was the chairman of the Wisconsin GOP, Brian Schimming, is just the best guy ever. I don't know, is me, everyone I know, I feel like they're the best people ever. They always disagree, but the Turning Point that I work with in Wisconsin, they're just the best. The Wisconsin GOP, they're so great. Like, everyone is so great. They're trying so hard. That's all I can see, is the people that don't make the money they could be making in the private sector. They work way more than 40 hours a week, more like 50, 60 hours a week at a job that doesn't pay them nearly what they're worth, but they do it because they care. And they could be doing something else, and they stay doing this, and then and then we've got a lot of volunteers that just love America and they love the community. And I just think that, whether you're a boomer, you're X, you're a Zoomer, Alpha, like, can't we all just get along and share power? Don't cling, like, be mentors and be willing to be mentored, and recognize you have something to learn and that someone else has something to teach. And at some point, you have to pass the torch, you have to pass the baton, and you're going to have to, if you want to see success, you're going to have to eventually let someone else start to take the reins, all of that. But I think, so I feel very positive about a lot of things. The thing that I feel not positive about is Generation X lack of involvement. That's my generation. We're just not nearly as involved as we need to be. We're highly individualistic, which is amazing. We're self-sufficient, amazing. We grew up with Robitussin, and you don't need to go to the doctor. You don't need to go to the ER for everything. We're not, we're not whiny, like sometimes I'll say with millennial. We will suffer in pain, we'll do the thing, we're responsible, all of that stuff, but we're also like, I think that Gen X just kind of, I want to be left alone, I want other people to leave me alone attitude is not going to be able to win against militant revolutionaries, because they know that all they have to do is make us so uncomfortable that we just take our toys and go home because we're done. And so their strategy is to make us miserable and uncomfortable, so we'll just leave and tune out. And that's not good. The great thing is that once we're engaged, we're a force. We're a force. But getting us engaged and then keeping us there, that can be the thing. And so a lot of my message across the state of Wisconsin, especially before the midterms, is my theme is get in the fight if you're not there, but mostly stay in the fight. That it's sort of that getting to over the honeymoon phase of the relationship, past all that, now getting into that like, way too comfortable phase. So a lot of my friends who were just fiery, hot, heavy, who've faded, I just say, please stay in the fight. Everyone needs a little bit of break and time out, but stay in it. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make that possible. I just was talking with some of the smartest conservative women I know, that they could just kill it in politics, whether if they're working for a nonprofit, a campaign, working in government, they could just but they can't be paid part-time. They can't be paid such a little amount that they have to keep their jobs. And so we lose good people. So these are the things that we're figuring out. And I think that we will more and more. I think there's just, you look at the conservator, Jamie Franklin, so many women in AFPI, in Turning Point, in a lot of young female lawyers. I mean, a lot of them. And so we're building the bench. We're building that bench. There are some great young conservative women, and they are interested in the public sector, and that's good. But so my job as Gen X woman and mom is to make sure that it's better for them. There's more job opportunities for them, and that there's a movement that has been very male heavy. I think conservative movement has been very male, and not in any sort of toxic, masculine way, nothing like that. I think they're great, but just we need more females, and we're getting them, and we have them, and they're coming up in the ranks. And we've got, I mean, look, in Illinois, Representative Mary Miller is just a powerhouse, and she's a grandmother, and she started doing this. I think she might have been my age when she started, and look where she is now. And she's making a huge difference. So I look to her and some others where I think, it's like my second act. There's still things that I can do. And then there's women younger than me that they have their role. And I mean, you look at the Trump White House, and there's so many young ladies there, and this is just, and they're in positions where they're only going to just grow, 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 grow. And Susie Wiles will not be the last female chief of staff. I mean, I don't think, I really, definitely, I shouldn't say definitely, but in my estimation, as far as GOP presidents, I don't think anyone's had so many qualified, competent women on staff as the Trump administration. And I think that that is something that's just going to continue. I mean, you can see that Usha Vance and Melania Trump, they are actively involved in a whole bunch of different initiatives. They are in the public. And it's wonderful to see the second lady, 3 kids, pregnant, another one coming soon. I mean, we haven't seen something like that in a long time. I think that's amazing. I love the idea of a White House that will have young children in it. Again, in a few years, I think that's the future. I love that there are candidates like Michael Alfonso, who if he's on track to win a primary in the 7th district of Wisconsin, and he, if elected, would be the youngest representative in the House. And I think it's so great. Young married guy with a little baby. It's like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. This is what I want to see. I want to see it. I want to see the conservative movement have young people not waiting until they're in retirement to get into politics, or that the only way they can do it is if they're uber wealthy and they can afford to take all the hits and hits in the career and afford to finance a campaign. I just want to see different. I want to see younger women, younger men, younger families, and I think everybody does. I think we want to see, but also that, and I mean, you look at the 1776 words, and then I'm going to shut up soon, but gosh, half the kids on the stage with the event with Mario Lopez and when he was emceeing it, and Secretary McMahon, half those kids were homeschooled. They're so smart. So we've got some parents doing like just this bang up job, like homeschooling their kids, and their kids are brilliant. There's no Marxism there. Their minds aren't befuddled when they pick up Plato's Republic. They don't need a thesaurus. So bravo, charter schools, public schools, and and I know there's good public schools because I know that there's so many good school board members that are making that happen. So grateful to them. They make no money doing what they do. They take a lot of crap and they do it. That is a job you're doing solely because you care. It is the most selfless position. Because there's a lot of other positions, county clerks and all that, where they don't make a lot of money. But these days, when you're a school board member, the amount of incoming that you are taking and what you have to put up with, like, they are just heroes, every last one of them. So grateful to all of our Moms for Liberty and to our school board members, all of our sane school board members that just continue to do this job, but there's no financial benefit for them. There's no, like, it's a huge sacrifice. It's not what it once was. So I'm grateful to them. I've talked to some of them today, and I know that with the new Supreme Court decision, there's again battles going on, and they're going to be raging July, August, September, up until the election. And the teachers unions, they've got like blank checks to spend and to crush. There are many states that there are school board races coming. We're talking about, this congressional race, this Senate race. Well, there's school board races. And so let's not forget the people on the front lines, and make sure that you're supporting candidates every way that you can, but with time and energy, money, and Moms for Liberty. That's what we do when it comes The only thing that we get involved with as far as campaigns is school board. And that's all done. That's not national. That's all done on a chapter basis. It's bottom up. So chapters, local, they endorse, and chapter leaders they endorse and they work together and they do that. They put a lot of time and effort and training into what they do. Again, these are mostly all volunteers, and so the whole dark money crap, it just makes me. If I don't laugh, I'll cry. It's such a joke. This is all volunteer. Like these leaders are all like so selfless, and the way that they're treated and called names in the SPLC, like it's such projection too. It's such absolute projection. But these are the times that try a woman's soul, and we have to just continue to stay in the fight, because we have a country that is worth fighting for. We have children and we have grandchildren and we have skin in the game. So what are you going to do? There's nowhere for our kids to go. This is it. My daughter just got back from a school trip to Europe, and she like wanted to kiss the ground. And she went to Italy and Greece. She was like, every day, like, I miss America. America's the best. America is the best. Like, so she wasn't in China. She wasn't in Russia. She was in Italy and Greece. And she's like, yeah, it was pretty, but oh my gosh, Mom. And the stories, that'll be another podcast. This, like, the truth about quasi-socialism are not capitalist. So I think that so many of her peers have this image of Europe, and it's like, yeah, if you're very wealthy, if you're extremely wealthy, or you're traveling and with your, and you've got some money, great, but not that it's not. I think Europe is beautiful and has its benefits, and America is far from perfect. It has has its issues, but overall, I just loved the way that my daughter came back, just like, oh my gosh, everything I ever said about living in a country other than America, forget it. This is the best country. She's like, Mom, can you, like, Mom, when you go to the grocery store, there's like one brand for things. There's only one choice. There's not a bunch of choices. And they make you pay to use the bathroom, and you have to pay. Like, she's like, I had to pay to have a fork. People threw things at me. Everyone was so mean. There was no ketchup. There's no ice. It's funny. She's in high school, and it was a high school trip. So it was, but they were beautiful. It was beautiful. And there was a lot of cool things that she had to do, but it was interesting. I mean, and it's a school trip, so they're on a school bus. It's not, they're not, they're not saying the Four Seasons or anything like that, which is good, because that's the way it needs to be. Like, she's not going on, this was an educational trip, and they were safe and it was good. But it's good to travel if you can. And if there's opportunities in the school where there is a trip, you learn a language, you go to, you part of a team, and that's something like they organize these trips, and the kids fundraise all year. It's great opportunity. And I worried, I kind of thought, oh, she'll go there and she's going to love it. And it's nice that she's like, I just want to be home. So America is great. It's a great country. It could be, the thing that kind of really gets me is how much better it could be if we didn't have Marxists running so many things. Man, it could be so much better. And like, I think that's what President Trump sees, the possibilities. Like the possibilities if everyone could just like get on board. And not in a way, like, just not even the political, like, just get on board and say, I want to be prosperous. I want a country that's prosperous. I want to have lower taxes. I want to have less crime. I want elections to be fair. I think that you should have to, that there are certain things that voting is a right, and it is a right for citizens. And it's an obligation too for citizens. So I think it's weird to think anything else. Again, another thing with Europe, like you can't even own property in Europe. You can't if you're not a citizen, you can't vote. You can't own property. You can't buy a house or buy a business. It's pretty hard to even have a really good job. They don't give Americans, like in Spain, like you don't get a great job if there is a standard. The rule of thumb, if there is a Spaniard that could do it, then they're not going to give it to you as an American. And you dual citizen, that like they're like, don't sell me that crazy. Like pure blood, they want Spaniard. In every other country, like there are certain things that you can do as a citizen and only citizens can do. That is not some strange foreign concept. Now, America is great because we open the doors for legal citizenship. And when you come here, you have opportunity, and you are just, the minute you are a citizen, you are just like you have the same rights as someone who has lived here for 400 years, or their family can be traced back for 400 years. A legal citizen, you are one of us. But again, stressing these are things for legal citizens. We can't have schools that say like we don't care, anyone can come, you don't have to prove your citizenship. That creates just such a burden on communities. It's just, this stuff makes common sense, and it's hurting. It's part of the things that hurt families, teachers, overworked, underpaid. This isn't, there's the potential, there's so much abuse that can happen when in this system where a lot of these kids can be trafficked and basically working like slaves. It's just bad. It's bad for everybody. And I'm getting off topic here, but just these are the things that our kids need to know. The truth about Marxism, socialism, what it's like to live in other countries. They need to read. They need to see things, see the world, and not be told lies. And then as they're told lies, not to have the intellectual capacity to even sort out what is truth or lies anymore. And that's the ultimate. That not only are they told lies, but to get them to that idiocracy point where they can't even sort out what's true. And they don't have the words, the vocabulary to say profound, important things, to share ideas, to even think like a free person. What you don't need then, you don't need handcuffs, you don't need cells, you're imprisoning them in their own mind. And that's communism. So that's the real thing. I also want to point, Dr. Jordan Peterson is slowly recovering, and he's put out a few things on his social media. One that I have shared on mine, but their lecture on Marxism that's very good. And I'm making all of my kids listen to it. I'm sending it to them, and then I'm turning it on in the car. They need to understand what Marxism is, what it really is. They need to know. There's so much lies about communism, and the kids live not by lies. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. It's nearly 5:30, and I have to start dinner. And there's the presidential address is going to be happening soon. If you are a member of Moms for Liberty, we have an all-member meeting tonight. So hopefully you'll be tuning in for that. If you're not on vacation, this is vacation month. I know I'm headed off for vacation next week. Looking forward to it. We'll be by the beach. It's going to be hot. And I'm gonna get so dark, but it's so much fun. And with all the family, pretty much just sitting by the beach with all the kids, be in North Carolina, visiting my brother. And I love it. It's great to get to see all my nephews. And so I hope all of you are having a fabulous July. Enjoy time with your family. Enjoy vacation. If you have little ones, hug them close. They grow up too fast, and everyone will tell you that, and you won't. You won't listen. Just listen to me. They grow up so fast, and take a lot of videos and pictures, and then that's all you'll have. Oh, I've got to go on the Instagram, the Empty Nester Instagram, so I can start crying again. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day. Enjoy your weekend, and we have some great interviews coming up soon and some really cool things to announce very, very soon. I can't wait. Lots of cool things, lots of great things. All right, bye, everybody.